Okay, fine, great. As long as any solution stays within the parameters of Article 1, Section 4 of the Constitution. Our founding document gives the federal government virtually no role in the election process. It is the job of the states to decide whether to accept certain kinds of help from the federal government. But here's the question. Is the Senate Intel Committee looking into what Robert Mueller is not? Is this committee investigating what could be the greatest election scandal in our nation's history? The effort to fix a presidential election by a sitting presidential administration. Joining me now from Washington, D.C., President of Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton. Tom, Senate, it's great what they're doing, trying to clean up what's going on in the states, and if the states want their help, wonderful, terrific. But the great scandal, the scandal of all scandals, I call it, is not Trump-Russia. It's the one staring at them on the end of their nose. It is this conspiracy. I don't know what else to call it. I think Eric Holder is correct. There's no collusion. This was a conspiracy between the DNC, the Hillary Clinton for President campaign, and a sitting administration that would be Barack Obama's administration to try and alter the election in her favor in a multitude of ways, and then destroy Donald Trump, hurt his transition, and set up the destruction of his presidency. Why aren't they looking into that?
Why isn't anyone looking into that? You laid out a significant area of law enforcement concern if the city was being honestly run, but the Justice Department and the FBI are AWOL on this very issue because they have an interest, at least the deep state portions of those agencies, in protecting and moving forward the Mueller operation, the special counsel operation that is single-handedly or just singularly focusing on President Trump and that fake story about Russia collusion with the Trump campaign to steal the election. You know, the abuse of the Justice Department and the FBI, if that was to be honestly investigated, would shut down the Mueller operation. So that's why the politicians of both political parties, both the Republican leadership and Democratic leadership, don't want to do either.
It could be argued, I think safely, that Team Obama during the election cycle did way more damage than Russia could ever do, and Judicial Watch, you folks, you're trying to get some answers. Judicial Watch demanding answers here. Judicial Watch filing a FOIA lawsuit against the State Department for the truth related to the improper unmasking, leaking, and other efforts tied to Obama UN Ambassador Samantha Power's involvement in the probe into Russian meddling in the 2016 election. Here's the question, Tom. What is a UN ambassador doing unmasking people through the FISA courts? The UN ambassador should have no role there. She has the power, obviously, but should have zero role. That's question number one I have. Why are her fingerprints all over these unmasking incidents? And then I also would like to get some answers finally from Susan Rice and a whole cornucopia of things that she did. The CYA email that she sent on Inauguration Day when President Trump was being inaugurated, all the way through things like shutting down cyber security, going after the Russians, trying to protect the election cycle. She single-handedly, apparently, according to a published book, shut it down.
Well, the unmaskings are a particularly egregious abuse, Graham, because just think about this. You have our government, our intelligence apparatus, spying on foreign nationals abroad, which is appropriate if they're heads of foreign governments and things like that. And if American names get mentioned in this foreign intelligence, there are supposed to be minimization procedures to protect the privacy of those Americans unless there's obviously a national security interest or an intelligence interest in unmasking them. And by the time it gets up to senior people, this intelligence is either masked or unmasked, and it would only be masked if the person didn't need to know. So when you have these top people like Samantha Power, allegedly, or Susan Rice, or anyone else asking the names be unmasked, they're really basically abusing their power. I mean, it's one thing to do it once or twice, but according to the reports, Powers did it. Power unmasked hundreds of people in the last year of the Obama administration, and she reportedly has said her name was used to unmask people, although she wasn't personally involved, which is another mystery.
Right.
These are the questions we have, and why is it we're asking these questions? Why are we pursuing this in the face of obstruction from the State Department, FBI, NSA, and Justice Department when Congress has basically stopped doing anything on this issue because of the upcoming election.
Speaking of abuse of power, we have McCabe and his abuse of power and trying to cover for Hillary Clinton is well chronicled. We have this Strzok character and this Page character still at the FBI. Imagine if this was the private sector. These people shouldn't still be on the payroll, yet there they are. But really, this could be just the tip of the iceberg. And again, Judicial Watch, you're trying to get some answers. But the DOJ and the FBI are stonewalling you here. DOJ and FBI delayed releasing the bombshell Strzok and Page text for months. It's why Judicial Watch filing a FOIA lawsuit for access, not just to the text, but to all emails, chats, and other communications between Strzok and Page. This tells me that the deep state is as deep as ever. Because here we have a Republican president in the White House, last I checked, who has his own guy there at the head of the DOJ. That would be Jeff Sessions. And his people supposedly, possibly running the FBI now, yet you can't get the information. Why? It's the deep state, right?
Yeah, and frankly, the top levels of the Justice Department need to start stepping up and taking responsibility and ownership for the obstruction of Congress and the obstruction of Judicial Watch FOIA complaints in federal courts. Andrew McCabe could have been removed months ago based on the information that we've uncovered. Strzok, as you point out, Strzok is still there despite being kicked out of the special counsel investigation back in August of last year. Mueller and the Department of Justice covered it up and arguably lied about the circumstances of his removal. And now they're covering up the text messages, as you point out, McCabe, of Strzok and Page. And they're also hiding the text messages of McCabe from Judicial Watch and our litigation. These are protected people. Despite McCabe being fired, it's a scandal. It took so long to fire him. There's accountability there. But it shows you just how corrupted the FBI was that they were forced to fire in the end their number two for lying to investigators. What else has McCabe been lying about?
And Rod Rosenstein, you would throw in there at the DOJ, giving Robert Mueller essentially carte blanche.
He's conflicted too. He signed on to one of these FISA warrants that used fraudulently, it looks like, this dossier paid for with DNC Clinton funds to destroy Donald Trump.
Right.
Rosenstein, whether he did the right thing or wrong thing or knowingly or unknowingly, really can't be trusted to fairly run this investigation because people now wonder whether he's a witness in this case that we're talking about, investigating the DOJ and FBI for abuses.
Which leads me to the FISA courts. The FISA courts clearly are being abused, or at least have been abused. Judicial Watch all over that as well. And you say this, with the release of the Democrat and GOP memos, it's clear the American people deserve to see the facts themselves. Judicial Watch filing a FOIA lawsuit with the DOJ to release the actual FISA application, FISA warrants, and foreign intelligence surveillance court decisions. I would go beyond that, Tom. I think it's time for Congress to review the entire notion of the FISA courts. Seems to me it goes against many notions contained in the United States Constitution, specifically the Bill of Rights.
Well, the FISA court's a complicated issue. The theory there is that the president has unfettered ability to protect the national security by spying on foreigners, and if Americans get caught up as agents of those foreigners, too bad. And this compromise has been this FISA court that respects the president's powers in that regard, but provides some oversight. But it relies, because of the secretive nature of the process, because of the national security concerns, it relies on good faith actions by the federal government when it goes to the court with information that would require a warrant to spy on an American citizen. And clearly that didn't happen under the Obama administration, and may have even happened during the Trump administration with Rod Rosenstein. And it may still be going on under Robert Mueller. It's a real crisis of confidence in the way the FISA court operates, because if people can't trust it with the secrecy and the trust that is necessary for that secrecy to be allowed to continue, they're going to come to the conclusions you're coming to, Graham.
Seems to me that it goes against the entire notion of due process. I think it's a violation of not only the Fifth Amendment, I think it violates the Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, and the Sixth Amendment. They have the trifecta there. I think it's time for Congress to review the way the FISA courts are operating. Tom, thank you.